Hello my quilting friends! Leah Day here with a new Quilty Box video! I just received my Quilty Box for November 2017 and it's filled with fun gear picked by Latifa Safir. So let's check out the box and see what we're going to make together this month. Just in case you've never heard of Quilty Box, basically this is a box of fun gear, tools, and supplies and beautiful fabrics, and each month it's always picked by a different designer. So this month's box was put together by Latifa Safir, and her website is latifasafirstudios.com. And so she has picked out an amazing collection of things. We've got a sew-line glue pen, and some beautiful thread colors. So this is R-fill. This looks like the 50 weight, and we've got a pretty color of green and kind of a orangey red. That's real nice. The Bundles of Inspiration magazine. So Quilty Box has been putting this together, and it has some information about Latifa, just like a nice interview with her, and then a beautiful quilt pattern for the slat bracelet quilt. And you can make that with the fabrics in the box and her handy template. And then a little preview of something new. They've started a Quilty Box Mini. So if you like kind of a smaller version of this box, you can do that too. So it's really nice to get this magazine in every box. Okay, so here's the big thing. I'm so excited that this was included in this month's box. It is a clammy 6-inch template. So this is something that Latifa designed and created. And so using this template, we can cut out all kinds of shapes. So I think full circles, half circles, quarter circles, we can do orange peel, we can do all kinds of different things. We can also do just the clamshell shape too. So I think that's going to be really awesome and fun to use to make beautiful quilts. All right, always the last thing I saved for the last, it's always the best part, and that is to go through the fabrics. So this is Latifa's line of fabrics for Me Plus You. Let's see, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Yep, it's Hoffman fabrics. So we have 8 fat quarters of Me Plus You fabric, and this is Hoffman fabrics. So let me see if I can pick this out here so that way I can show it to you. I think I'm just going to have to cut it this month. There we go. Okay, open it up. Oh, this is so cute. It's ice cream. That's really nice. It's like little iconic ice cream cones and ice cream pops. And then that looks like a brick, like green brickwork. And then, let's see here. Kind of a, it's very modern. I'm pretty sure that this is Latifa's line of fabrics. And so they're very modern. They're very iconic, very simple prints here. This looks like it's almost graffiti, the lettering, graffiti lettering. And then this looks like paint splotches. That's really cool. And then this is a gray that's very similar to that orange. And then this one's interesting. It's almost like chain link fence. So that's really cool. So we've got a really nice variety of very graphic, bold prints. They're all very modern. So this is going to be a fun challenge. I don't usually work with prints like this. So I'm going to turn off the camera and figure out what we're going to make with these pretty fabrics this month. And then we'll begin working on it together. So here's what we're making this month. This is Soft Edges. It's basically a fabric showcase. Pick out your 4 favorite prints from this month's Quilty Box, and we're going to use that clammy ruler to turn soft edges to make soft pieced corners on each block. I love how this came out. I love it when I can showcase specific fabrics and really let them stand out. And I love the excuse to try out some curve seam piecing. So let's jump on the machine and see how this works. The first step is to make our blocks, and I picked out 4 of the fabrics from Latifa's collection, and I've cut them into 16.5-inch squares. Now I'm going to take this clammy ruler and line it up here with the corner, and I find that I can use a 45-degree rotary cutter for this. And I can line this up really nicely right with the edges of the fabric, press firmly, and make that cut really carefully all the way around. Now I'm left-handed, so that's the angle that feels most natural for me. So now I'm going to rotate it around. I'm going to do the same thing around each corner. And that outside curve, you got to understand, I'm kind of guessing as to how to use Latifah's clammy ruler. I'm guessing this is the right way to do this, but it went together pretty easily for me, so I think it's going to work fine. So going ahead and lop off all of the corners, make that nice curved edge using this outer curve of the clammy ruler. So now the next step is to cut our inner curve, and this is on our black background fabric. And I did a little bit of experimenting with this and some test blocks, and I found that I needed to line up the black fold lines with the edge of my square. So this is a 4.5 inch square of black fabric that I'm using here, and I'm lining up the inside of those dark black fold lines on the clammy, just like that. Press firmly, and here in this case I'm using a 28mm rotary cutter, and you want to be real careful going at these angles because it would be easy for it to pop up and cut you. So just be really careful and really mindful as you make that cut. So while it's positioned here, I forgot to mark on the other one, we want to make sure that we mark this little hash mark here. So now I'm going to take it, so that's my outer piece. I'm going to go back to my block and grab the ruler again, line this up again, and I want to make sure that I get these hash marks marked here too. So I'm just using my ceramic marking pencil, lining this up, making sure that's marked nicely. And I found, you could flip it and play around with it to try and get those other marks, but I actually found you could just rotate it like this and line up those two marks that you've already done and then be able to mark this third one. You need all three. There, just like that. So make sure to cut your curve with this outer side of the clammy ruler. Cut your inner curve with this inner curve of the clammy, lining up the edges of the square with those fold lines, and then also mark those little hash marks. Now we're going to take it to the machine and fit this together, making sure that matches up really nicely. So we're ready to curve these corners, make those nice soft curves. And what I found was the easiest thing to do is to go on ahead and line up those marks. And I had them set up, both of them with the marks right side up, so that way they could be lined up just right. And then I decided to use the glue pen that came in this month's Quilty Box. So I worked only half at a time, so I just glued from that pen up to that mark on the side. So then now I'm going to take the end of the piece and line that up so that the edge of the fabric is lining up right with that mark, and I place a pen. So now this is glued, and now I'm just going to set and ease the two together. So I'm mushing with my fingers and easing the two together. And that glue is going to hold gently but securely. It's not something that can take a whole lot of manipulation, so if you have to really tweak it and get, like work out a pleat or something, then you might have to re-glue it. I did find that it would secure so fast, the glue would dry so fast that I couldn't do the other side. So once I got one side mushed together, I would glue the other side. And I just think that these pens hold the fabric where you want it. So here I'm lining up the edge of that fabric right with that mark on the block itself. And I just think that the pens are useful, I don't mind penning, particularly on a quilt this simple and easy to put together. It's only 3 little pens, and then you mush on it a little bit, and there we go. It's all put together. This is how we're going to stitch it. We're going to start up here, turn that corner, and the glue is what's holding this in place, and we won't have to sit there and fight and fuss with it when it's on the machine. And you can go on ahead and take the pins out. I usually don't. I leave them in right up until I take it to the machine and stitch it, simply because I just don't want anything to slip. But the glue should hold it nice and securely in place. You can go on ahead and do this to another corner. So let me walk you through it again. Line up those marks on the two fabrics, just like that. Grab your glue pen, run the glue up to that side mark, line up the edge of your background fabric with that mark, place a pin, and then take a second to ease the two together. I'm just kind of, pulling is the wrong word. It's more of kind of a squish and mush. Squish and mush. Honestly, I wish I'd named the quilt that. So I'm squishing and mushing the fabrics together and kind of pulling on them a little bit, but not being aggressive with it, because that is a curve and it could go all wonky on you. So be careful as you squish and mush it together. I love that. All right, so here we go. Second side, apply the glue all the way down. And you do want to cap your glue pen. Don't leave it open. It will start to dry the end of the glue if you leave it open and exposed to air for too long. There we go. Got another pin in it. Now squish and mush. There we go. And I hope you can see just how fast that is. You know, that's there, secure, it's locked together. And now we can take these seams to the machine and go on ahead and stitch around it. So I'm right here on the edge. I'm going to drop my needle down, pull it up, and bring up my bobbin thread. This is one situation where I can't use a scrap charger because I'm going to start stitching right on the edge of my block fabric. So this is one situation where we're not going to do any chain piecing. And in order to stop those thread tails from kind of making a mess on the back of the block, pull them up and tuck them underneath your foot like that. Okay, so now we're going to get started stitching. I removed that first pin, and the glue is locking those fabrics together. I don't feel them shifting or wiggling or moving at all. It's just a matter of just gentle tweaks just to get that nice angle curving through the machine. Coming up on that center pin, remove that. You don't want to stitch over your pins. And the only thing I'm really feeling for here is just pleats. You know, let's say one of the fabrics was just decided to go wonky and pleat back on itself. You know, work that out, kind of mush on it a little bit and get it to behave. Now, the edges of the fabrics might not stay in absolute perfect alignment throughout that curve. Not the end of the world. I wouldn't obsess about it. Stitch off a good bit into that background fabric and break your thread. So here is our beautiful block with all of those soft edges stitched. And this is going to be one of those weird situations where I think pressing this seam to one side to the background fabric is the better way to do it. It's just naturally laying flat that way. So I just run my fingernail along it, kind of give it a good crease, and then cover it with a pressing cloth and hit it with a dry iron. So that's going to encourage that to flatten out completely and give you a nice edge all the way around. So just go all the way around the block, making sure that each of these seams is pressed completely flat, and then we'll trim up the block and get ready to add our background fabric around it next. So this is the point this quilt pattern gets just a little bit funky, and this is when it comes to trimming up this block. And the truth of the matter is you don't need hardly any of this black background fabric here. We only need enough to make that corner curve, which means you only need about that much of it. And all of this was just extra to hang on to make sure that that curve was easy to turn, was easy to stitch. So I'm lining up my ruler here, and I'm going to lop off 1/8 of an inch from all sides. So this is going to be 1/4 inch smaller overall. So I've lined this up 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm just going to cut right across. And you might be wondering, okay, 1/8 of an inch, it's hard to measure that. It's hard to eyeball that. Don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. Aim for your block to be square and the sides straight more than an exact 1/8 of an inch being taken off. These first two sides, you just kind of eyeball it. With the second two sides, you can line up the 16 1/4 inch mark on your ruler, and that'll ensure your block is nice and straight. So you can see that's how that little bit of fabric that we need in those corners. So just take your time with this, what you're aiming for. And the reason why we're trimming it down like this is we are cutting so that when we stitch and piece black fabric or background fabric to the sides, then it's going to come in here and overlap and cover where this hits, because these are raw edges on the ends, right? So we want to make sure that that's overlapping it. We don't want it to come out too far. So I'll trim up this side one more time and we'll be ready to go. So that's how you create the soft edges block. Just stitch those gentle curves in the corners, then trim them down so that these edges are within the 1/4 inch seam allowance. So now we can start piecing this together into rows. And I just did 4 big blocks, these nice big supersized blocks, but you could really play around with this and do a lot of different sizes, a lot of different things with it. I just really hope that this helps to spark your curiosity when it comes to doing curved seams. It's not as hard as it looks. So here you can see I pieced on some black background fabric and how this starts to look. We've got that straight line down the side, but that curve comes in and is able to just soften that edge. That's where the name of the quilt comes from. So to make your rows, just simply piece your blocks together with 6.5 inch wide strips of black background fabric. Here's my other row so you can see how that will look when it comes together. And then now I'm going to take nice long strips of black fabric and piece them to the top and bottom, and that's going to finish off the quilt. So that's it for this video. I really hope you learned a lot and you'll give the curved seam piecing and the clammy ruler a try. I really felt that this went together very easily, and I'd love to try the bigger clammy rulers. So I think Latifah has also created an 8-inch and a 12-inch version of that same ruler. So lots of different possibilities of things that you can do with it, and certainly the bigger the curve is, the softer it's going to be and the easier it's going to be to stitch it. So that might be something, if you liked this and you want to do some more curved seam piecing, definitely check out Latifah Saphir's website, and that's latifahsaphirstudio.com. If you'd like to learn more about Quilty Box, definitely check it out in a link below this video. I love getting Quilty Box every month and getting new tools and supplies and beautiful fabrics to play with. I challenge myself every single month to piece a new quilt, something quick and simple that also teaches you some new techniques. So if you follow along with Quilty Box, make sure to also check out my free tutorials posted every month. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube so you don't miss the next video coming out soon. Until next time, let's go quilt!